To order. Roll call. Please note all commissioners are present. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Item 3, approval of minutes of the February 10th, 2021 regular meeting.
Move approval.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or changes to the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 4, approval of police department bills. Yeah.
Good morning. You have 2 sets of bills in front of you. One was approved by Commissioner Gershman on the 17th of February, and the other approved by Commissioner Meese on the 3rd of March. And going through the bills, nothing really of significance stood out to me, but I'd be happy to answer any questions and would ask for your approval.
Just a quick question, please. On page 4B, battery packs, cartridges, and Model 2 suit for 5,000 something. What is that?
Yeah, those would be part of our Axon Taser battery packs and our replacement batteries. So that's part of our whole Axon package that we're on a 5-year contract for. So that's that yearly portion of that.
Okay.
Pat, Axon is also the provider of the body cameras too, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. They provide our body cameras and our squad mobile cameras.
Okay. Any other questions on the bills?
I have one. Pat, they're working good now. I mean, at one point we had issues with especially the body cams. Everything's working good.
Everything works great. Most of the issues were with the other brand that we had that we ended up switching out about 1.5 years ago, so no complaints. Actually, as part of the 5-year contract, we're due to get a full body camera update. That's no cost to us at all. That's just part of the 5-year contract. So we'll be getting the newest model of body cameras that have a little bit of better camera in it, a little better, longer battery life. So, yep, we'll be due for an upgrade. So everything's working great.
Hey, good to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions on the police department bills? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Lori, if we could do a roll call, please.
Earl?
Yes.
Meese? Yes. Keogh?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Gershman?
Yes, thank you. Item 5, approval of fire department bills. Chief Owen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
3 sets of bills. There is a hopefully a final set from 2020 and 2021 that were reviewed by Commissioner Myers on February 16th. And then another set of bills reviewed by Commissioner Earl on March 1st. Really, the only thing in there is there are several subscription renewals to different programs that we use, along with annual maintenance. Sorry. Otherwise, nothing stands out. Ask for your approval.
Any questions on the bills?
I have 2 quick ones. Scott, on page 5G, expense reimbursement tuition for elementary statistics and intro to business and tech communications for 22,250. What institution is that? Do you know?
I believe that is Hannah's class, and I believe it's UW Milwaukee.
Yeah, okay. And then there's one on 5K says petty cash, fire department, Fleet Farm, blank white ear tags, $25.99. On whom are you applying the ear tags?
We are starting to do ear tagging of animals here. No, I'm just kidding. We use those for marking rope, like inventory number and service life, so it's easy to identify.
Likely story. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Any other questions on the fire department bills?
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Lori, if we could have a roll call, please.
Earl,
Yes.
Meese,
Yes, sorry.
Keo,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Gershman.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, police department activities, train reports, and correspondence packet. Pat, you're muted.
Bound to happen sooner or later. Yeah, with this month, again, the fairly routine gamut of online meetings and some online trainings. So nothing really stood out in terms of that. Happy to give a quick COVID update. It's been some time since we've had any type of a quarantine or exposure, so we're doing really, really well in that area. Everything is status quo as far as the mask goes. I know that the CDC has put some guidelines out that says people with who are in groups of vaccinated other individuals don't have to wear a mask. But as of right now, we're just sticking status quo with the masks, and I haven't seen anything official from the Wood County Health Department. So we are going to roll out some kind of going back to normal steps. Tentatively, we're hoping to go back to some travel for staff to get some better training as of April 1st. And of course, we can always ramp that back if things take a turn for the worse. But you know, some of the online training is great. It's a nice substitute, but there are some things that we need to do that have to be done in person, you know, to keep up our certifications and our, you know, UTI, you know, our tactical training officers or firearms officers. So that is tentatively the plan. We are going to hold off a little bit yet on tours and ride-alongs till we get a better sense. So we'll reevaluate that in the next month or two. But that's about it for activities for the month. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Pat, are all of you vaccinated?
No, as far as the sworn personnel, it was about exactly 50% who took the vaccination. And we did have a bit higher on the civilian side with our volunteers and our crossing guards and transport officers. So, but as far as sworn personnel, it's about 50%.
Okay.
I'm guessing, and Scott will probably do a little input on this too, as far as the mask mandate. Do you have any outlook how long that is going to last in both your departments? Feel free to chime in on this too, Scott, if you want.
Yeah, no, right now we're going to continue our mask mandate here in the station when they are out responding. We've noticed several members are starting to get a little lax on wearing their masks, and we readdress that, and everybody is back to wearing it. But we follow, as far as masks in buildings, we follow what City Administrator Steve Barg had put out earlier as far as wearing masks. And I think that's kind of our go-to when we look to start wearing masks. But right now we are wearing masks, and really, like Pat said, I haven't seen anything from Wood County yet. I'm sure they'll address it soon, but right now there's nothing.
Okay, thank you. So Pat, training is going to start opening up where you're going to be able to travel at least a bit within the state. Is that what your plan is?
Yeah, that's the plan, specifically for things that require hands-on. You know, we're down a couple firearms instructors that we've had on the back burner for some months. Some of those things you just can't substitute for online training. But I mean, it's been good. It gets us through. You can pick up some things. But so yeah, April 1st is tentatively, and I think we've got some out of town training scheduled for roughly around the middle of April. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm optimistic that we'll kind of start to head in that direction to get back to normal a little bit.
I just have one other question. Pat, recently we went back to the regular shift change. How's that transition gone?
As far as moving away from the rotation?
Yes, yeah.
I have not heard any negative feedback on that at all. In fact, it's been overwhelmingly positive that we've eliminated that. Now, we wouldn't be due for a switch over here, I think, for about a month and a half yet.
Okay.
But people folks here are very happy that that's not on the horizon, that they're not going to have to do that 2-month switch over. So okay. I think it's been good.
Any other questions on the police department activities report? Okay, we'll receive and place that on file. Thank you. Item 7, fire department activities, training reports and correspondence. Chief Owen.
Yeah, so similar to Pat, several meetings throughout the month, both COVID and non-COVID related. Continuing on Pat's discussion on some COVID updates, we have resumed routine fire inspections. We have resumed our long distance transports again, kind of getting back to normal. We have opened up the fitness center to city staff and spouses. The only thing we are not doing right now are tours. We're restricting that for right now. Again, we're going to evaluate it as time goes on, but we are not allowing that right now. We do have ride-alongs and interns that are working with us, and that's going really well. The vaccination clinics that have been going on here, another one is scheduled today. Last week, Wood County was here, and they did about 404 individuals for vaccination. That's really good. They think they can do more in the 9 to 5 time slot. So we shall see. It's all dependent upon the amount that they get from the state. Moving on 7B, I had sent out an email to at least Commissioner Gershman about the oath of office and badge pinning because of COVID, and we haven't met face to face. I wanted to get our 2 newest firefighters their oath and their badge pinning. So firefighter Sager, excuse me, and firefighter Hansen received their oath of office and badge pinning on February 9th. And then we also did the formal shield presentation for successful completion of his 1-year probation for firefighter Kanowski. All were very happy to have that done. And it was well attended by on-duty staff and families of firefighter Sager, Hansen, and Kanowski. 7C, we had a kickoff meeting with our Lexipol subscription service. And that is basically taking all of our current policies and putting them into Lexipol, which is going to be a good thing. PD uses it, and Stevens Point Fire has recently switched to it. It's going to be a good thing for updates to policies, meeting the most current practices and state, federal mandates. And then James Rowan, our leadership coach, presented at the monthly officer meeting again, and that was well attended. You'll see monthly statistics and a couple of checks in there for our hazmat. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask you to accept and place on file.
Any questions for Chief Owen?
I'll ask the same one. How about vaccinations among your staff, Scott?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but I think we're 67-70% of the staff.
Okay.
A little bit high. We did have another staff member get it recently, so I think we're up to about 64% right now.
Oh, okay.
I have to say that as a public relations event, having those vaccination clinics in the firehouse, absolutely wonderful. I have heard more positive about how those have gone and how helpful it is, and that gets people into the fire station, and I just think it's gone beautifully. Good work.
Yeah, I know Wood County Health is extremely pleased with it. They love coming up to work out of here. We're very happy to have them here and to help them. And again, it's been positive on our end, and thanks to the PD and Wood County Sheriffs for having their officers here for security and door opening.
Yeah, it's gone well.
Can I ask a question? If either Pat or Scott or Steve have a notion of what's the cause of the vaccine hesitancy among the people who are not? Do you have a handle on that?
I think it's just the newness of it and the uncertainty from at least my perspective. Steve, it looks like you may have.
Yeah, specifically for our members, the few that I've talked to, and I wasn't asking for reasons, they volunteered this information. Newness, just kind of wanted to wait and see approach. Some have military background and maybe a little distrust of government. And I think there was a couple that had more political reasons. So there's a lot of different reasons, but yeah, for the most part, most of our staff, again, over half is very, very excited when we were allowed to get it.
Yeah, so I'm curious because in my space, I'm noticing that with the vaccination leading to changes in restrictions, that's caused more people to say, maybe, there's some relief around the corner for, gathering in small groups without masks and hugging grandma and grandpa, all those things. So,
I think on the police department side, it was about the same. I didn't solicit information as far as why people didn't do it, but the little bit that was volunteered, very similar to what Steve Bakos just said. So
may I ask, do you feel compelled in either house to try to do some education to increase that, or is it, or not? Is that part of what you think your mission is?
So speaking from my point of view, yes. And even before we got the vaccination, I had a lot of members asking for information. So I forwarded everything I could find, the articles I was reading, information from CDC. Some people asked for sources other than CDC. So I was searching out other vetted articles online and forwarding those. So educating people here as much as possible. And I'm a big proponent of vaccines. So even in my personal life, friends and family on social media, there are a lot of people with some interesting things they had heard and just pointed them in the direction of the facts. So yeah, I try to do as much education as I can.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's there's a whole area of research around the vaccine hesitancy, and so I'm just curious.
yeah, and I think on our side too, we're always open to that as far as education and stuff. Wasn't ever really approached because I don't think people view me or police department administration as a foremost expert in it. But I agree with what you said that hopefully as things, some of these things are relaxed and it looks like the vaccine's having an impact, that maybe some people will get on board and maybe we can move more people towards it. So, but that remains to be seen.
Very good.
I have a question.
Mike, yep.
Steve, you're close to the situation. I had somebody ask a question the other day, whether there's of the two right now that are available, two brands, is there one or the other being used or a combination of both?
So they just released a third also, in case you hadn't heard that. That should be out this week already in Wisconsin. But as far as the previous two, they're both being used in the area. The Pfizer needs ultra cold storage, which Marshfield Medical Center is able to accommodate. So they were getting deliveries of Pfizer, and the Moderna doesn't need the ultra cold. So those shipments have been going to places like Wood County Health and smaller facilities that didn't have the ultra cold. So when you were told when you got your first shot, which vaccination you got, and that you had to get the second one, the same brand. So yeah, both are in the area, both are being used right now.
And having been one that went through my first one a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to get my second one today. I think it went very smooth. Couldn't ask for more, and got a lot of comments from people I know that have been through the same thing. And so I give you a lot of credit for making a facility available. And like Andy said, it makes the people, gives them an opportunity to be able to go through the facility, and it's just good that we're involved with the whole process, because I believe in it entirely, 100%. So
Thank you.
I would like to second what Mike just said. My wife and I are getting our second one today at the fire station also. And the first one went extremely well from what we saw. And it's great that it's here.
I'm glad that we could help out.
Any other? Go ahead.
I was just going to add this since we're talking about the clinic today. Numbers I got from Christy this week, they're expecting 61 new vaccinations today and 209 second doses. The clinic is going to run from 9 to 4. And I believe that, again, the less than last week based on the number of doses they received.
So I just have one question. How many weeks is this going to go on through the summer as they start widening the availability to people younger than 65 or at risk?
Yeah, so as far as our plan, right now we don't have an end date. We started this because of essentially weather. And actually today is a really good example with the rain coming down. But I would anticipate as things warm up, I know there was some discussion about moving it to a more open air area where it would be easier to run. But from our point of view, it really doesn't impact the fire department operations much. The guys help set up, help tear down. Other than that, they're just here in case somebody does have a reaction. We get a crew out there. I'm kind of monitoring the situation. So right now, we don't have an end date in mind.
Yeah, I was just curious, Steve, just how long this could go, because certainly there's a lot more people that need to be vaccinated. So keep us updated on that. Thank you much for that. If there's not any more questions, I'd just like to place this on file: fire department activities, training reports, and correspondence. All right, item 8, Chief Owen, permission to begin lieutenant, relief lieutenant, and deputy chief promotional process at the fire department to establish an eligibility list. Chief Owen.
Correct. In your packet, there is a short memo kind of explaining it, but we currently do not have an active eligibility list for lieutenant, relief lieutenant, and deputy chief. So in anticipation of planned retirements later this year and potentially unplanned events, we would like to start the promotional process for those 3 positions. By doing this now, we'll be ready to promote someone when the opening arises instead of playing catch up. The lieutenant and relief lieutenant list would be good for 1 year, and the deputy chief process would be good for 2 years. It's a 4-part process for at least the deputy chief. There's the assessment center, a panel interview, and a fire chief interview. And then for lieutenant and relief lieutenant, same components plus a written exam. And if any of the commissioners are interested in sitting in on interviews or in the assessment center, I would be more than happy to have you join us. But otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask for your approval to begin the promotional process.
That was my follow-up question. I know in the past we've had some commissioners that thoroughly enjoyed being part of your process, Scott, to be able to see both the assessment center, the interviews, and also the degree of strength on your bench in the department. So yeah, that's well appreciated. So yeah, definitely get a notice out to everyone. Any questions on the process for the chief?
I have one. Is this how we've done it in the past? Have you always had a ready list to pick from, or have we been doing it just on a as needed basis?
Usually it's been a catch up and as needed thing. We're trying to be proactive now because we know that we have 1 deputy chief that will be retiring this year. And we want to make sure that everything is in line so that we can get those who are interested more officer type training so that they are ready to go if they are promoted.
And I think it just adds to the value of the James Ronan training for leadership. I think the timing is just really exceptional, Scott, in terms to have that as a resource for yourself and the department. Yeah, I really feel good about that. Any other questions? Otherwise, I would like a motion to begin the Relief Lieutenant Deputy Chief promotional process.
I'll move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Thank you. Any other discussion? I think we should do a roll call on this if we could. Lori?
Earl,
Yes.
Meese,
Yes.
Keo,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Hirschman.
Yes. Thank you, Scott. Just keep us updated on how well that's going.
Will do. Thank you.
Item 9, presentation of the 2020 Marshfield Police Department Annual Report. Pat.
All right. Once again, it's fairly self-explanatory, but it wasn't too terribly long ago where myself and Administrative Associate Cindy Getz were having a discussion, and it occurred to us that we had to throw together an annual report with everything going on here. So we're like, what do we do? So I want to thank Scott Owens for giving us a rundown on Picto Chart. I really have to thank Administrative Associate Cindy Getz. She absolutely immersed herself in this, collecting the data from the central records system, really learning Picto Chart. This could not have been done without her help, and we certainly couldn't have got it done in time. So all the credit goes out to her in this, and I just can't thank her enough for that. So as noted in the letter, you probably sound like a broken record, but COVID presented just immense differences for us this last year. Some of the community networking things that we normally would touch on, coffee with a cop, we would have our annual grilling event downtown, where we would grill food for the community, ride-alongs, those types of things. They all really got on the back burner just in terms of trying to keep staff healthy here and able to respond to calls. So really, really differences for us there. There are a few items to note. There's some things that are lower that you're going to see. And a lot of this, I think you could just attribute it to lower amounts of people moving. We also had some lockdowns. We had businesses closed. So you'll see the OWI numbers, traffic stop numbers, and the overall calls for service were a bit down in 2019. And I think, without any firm data to tie it to that's most likely the reason. It's just lower amounts of people moving and being out. So another highlight that I'd like to point out is, as a department, we continue to see an increase in our clearance rate under the Uniform Crime Reporting requirements, and that went from 72% in 2019 to 77% in 2020. And one of the things I'd like to say is, with all the challenges we faced last year, this is an unbelievable testament to the men and women who work here on all levels, from civilians to volunteers to records to patrol to auxiliary to our detective bureau, to really bring that together. It's just a true team effort. How these crimes are responded to, they're investigated, and they're brought to a conclusion. So I cannot, under the circumstances that we faced, express my gratitude enough to the people here and how they've responded to that. So I'd also like to point out the awards page, and I'd like to give a shout out to our honors committee that really expanded the types of awards we were giving out to include community awards, to include more officer awards, to really give the recognition that I just touched on just a second ago for the men and women who work here. So those are really some of the highlights. Other than that, I guess being this is my first kick at the cat on this, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, but I would be happy to answer any questions, and I'd be ready to do so.
Any questions on the annual report?
Just a couple of very quick ones. It's more definitions than anything else. It would seem obvious, but I don't know what the criteria are. What's the difference between aggravated assault and non-aggravated assault?
Going to trip me up on that one, but I haven't reviewed that statute for some time. Aggravated would most likely involve a higher level of violence, injury.
So it's sort of obvious in the language, right?
Sure.
The second definition thing. Transport officers did 133 total transports. Patrol transports 164.
Yep.
What's the difference between patrol and transport?
Well, the transport officer would be our civilians who do those transports instead of patrol. And most of the time when they're used, it has to do with staffing. So if we're running at a minimum staffing of 4 officers and a shift commander, and someone has to go to Wood County Jail, we would call a transport officer. If we're staffed adequately to where we don't go below minimum staffing and we can send them, then we'll typically send a patrol officer down to do the transport.
Yeah, okay.
A couple other criteria on that too is it has to do with the individual being transported to. There are some that we don't use transport officers just given the nature of what they're arrested for. So,
All right, that's fine. That's all I have. Thank you.
The thing that was interesting to me, Pat, is our clearance rate actually went up with the challenge of COVID. That was interesting. We've always had a high clearance rate historically, but during this year with all the multifactorial things going on, it's pretty impressive.
yeah, I was very happy to see that.
Any other questions on the annual report of the police department?
Yeah, I've got a couple comments. Pat, the traffic stops are down significantly from like 8,200 down to 4,500. That's notable in the report, and it's interesting to see. The other one that you mentioned was the clearance rates, and I think that's commendable, without a doubt. I don't think it certainly is commendable. And it is a reflection of, I think, a combination of the dedication of officers and possibly the education that they're given, that they're well trained, and I'll always support training them enough that they'll be able to continue to bring in clearance rates like this, because it shows it's a first-class organization, and I'd certainly like to see it continue that way. Maintenance was one that I was a little interested in, vehicle maintenance, that it jumped up, it spiked considerably from 2,500 or maintenance, 2,500 to 3,300. It's is it the vehicles we're driving, or is it a combination of reasons that the maintenance is up so high?
Yeah, you know, in my years doing this, what I found is that one significant repair can really skew that number. I know, you know, we've had a couple of really significant ones to the tune of several $1,000s, and that's outside the norm. You know, and those aren't accidents. You know, with accidents, it's a little different because we do have some accidents here, but typically those are reported under the nature of what we pay out in insurance, so it doesn't really reflect on this report. But we have had a couple significant vehicle fixes, you know, like I said, in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 4,000. So when you get that in a year, it really kind of skews that number, and it's really kind of hard to budget for. So that would be why there's an anomaly this year.
Is that, I mean, in some cases, I imagine it's a warranty kind of thing, but there's things outside of that realm, I suppose, that pop up. Yeah,
one of them this year was it's an older SUV that we keep for training. And it was a detective vehicle that was pulled off the road, and because we've been able to switch those out. So that one I know amounted to a relatively significant cost. I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it was somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000. Okay. So. All right, just those are a couple of things that stuck out. Otherwise, I'm very satisfied with the report itself, and shows a lot of effort went into it. And I guess the only thing, and it doesn't have to be at any time in the future, but I do enjoy having access to photos of the officers, because unfortunately I don't know every one of them anymore, and the only way I really get to meet them is when they drop a packet off at the house or something, and it's just a ready reference for me. But it's nothing that has to be part of the reports in the future or anything. But that part I do miss a little bit. Yeah, and I mean, I think we're open to that. And, you know, at the time of kind of me realizing we got to do an annual report, we really did kind of model off of last year's. But I did see, I believe in the fire departments, when I went through it, they put a picture of all the officers in there. Yeah. And I actually like that feature too. Thank you. Good job.
Very good. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to place the report on file. Okay, thank you. Presentation of the 2020 Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department Annual Report. Chief Owen.
Yeah, so we're very pleased to present to you the 2020 annual report for the Fire and Rescue Department. A special shout out to everyone that helped with the process, all the men and women of the fire department. It is a time-consuming process to put this together, but I think it's well worth it. So this annual report is showing how busy we were again this year. Despite COVID, we maintained a similar amount of calls to the previous year. We were down 144 total calls compared to 2019, primarily in the interfacility transport. So hospitals were not transferring patients between one another with COVID. And so that was probably the major reason that we had the decrease. The cover this year on our annual report is reminiscent of everything that we and the community went through this year related to COVID. It definitely was a unique year, and we're hoping that 2021 is much better. On page 14, one of the things that I started this year and added is we had 6 employment milestones this year. So on page 14, you can see the 6. Lieutenant Kelly Esker celebrated 25 years of service with us. Lieutenant Brian Barnes, 20 years. Firefighter paramedic Lucas Friedenland, 10 years. And then 5-year anniversaries went to firefighter paramedics Steve Annan, Anthony Lucchini, and Zach Miller. So those are good milestones, and we're hopeful to add that or continue that in the future. A lot of statistics in there, a lot of pictures. And this annual report is something that I personally reference throughout the year. We get calls from other fire departments asking about response times for the ambulance, number of calls you went on, whatever it was. It's a quick way for me to reply, and I can even send them the link to the electronic version of the annual report. Which is very helpful to them. So other than that, I would be happy to answer any questions on the annual report. And if I can't answer them, I'm sure Pete or Steve can, and ask that you accept and place on file.
Any questions?
Again, I just have a couple of definitional things more than anything else. Scott, can you go to page 16?
16.
Comparison of concurrent calls. I don't know what that means exactly.
Concurrent calls are where there's more than one call at the same time. So an ambulance goes out and then a second one or an engine call comes in shortly thereafter.
And then what is, let's take 2017, which is 47.2%. 40, you mean that happens almost half the time?
Yep.
Okay.
There are several times when an ambulance will be out and another ambulance call will come in, even 20 minutes later while the first one is still out. That's a concurrent call.
Okay.
It does happen that often.
Yeah, that's fine. If you go to page 18 where you list contracted areas, I just wanted to share, I ran into I don't know what you call them in the townships, the town board, what do you call the members of that?
Supervisors?
Yeah. Anyway, I ran into one from Lincoln County or Lincoln Township, and he went on and on about how much they appreciated the professionalism of the fire department respondents for ambulance service. He appreciated that the cost didn't go up this year, but had to comment he thought it was a little too high anyway. But right. Went on and on about how good that service is and how they've come to appreciate it. So that's for you and for Steve and for everyone else.
That's good to hear.
And then I think I had one or two other small things. Now, I've asked this before, and I'm not sure that I understood it. On 23, there's inspection violations and corrections, and there are always more violations than there are corrections. Is that just a matter of time, or is that a matter of people not doing what they're supposed to?
I can answer that. Generally, you're shooting for 85% clearance rate, and that's where a lot of the ones that don't get corrected are at the end of the year. So that those will be minor violations such as, an egress light needing new batteries, and that might stretch into the next year. So it didn't get corrected technically yet,
Okay.
but it is in the process. We expect all violations to be corrected. But yeah, that's kind of what that means.
All right, that's fine. And then the last thing I have, when I came to get my vaccinations, there was a truck with a trailer attached to it parked on the west side of the parking lot.
Mhm.
What was that truck?
That is Squad 1 and our hazmat trailer. So that Squad 1, yeah, that is used for a lot of different things. It's confined space. It's hazmat, it's a command vehicle, it's fire investigation uses it. It's a utility truck.
All right. One day when, things are back to normal and we can, it'd be interesting after one of our meetings if we could go through that. I've never seen, it doesn't feel like I've ever even seen it before.
Yeah, sure, not a problem.
Okay.
Any other comments on the annual report?
If I could comment on this report as well, I think the effort that went into it is well worth it. And I'm very pleased with the report, and I refer to it myself once in a while just to keep up on things that I'm particularly interested in, like how we work with Stratford and Spencer on ambulance calls, and the chief knows some of the other things I'm interested in. So it's a very useful tool, and I can see where it's already referenced in case other communities or people in general would want to have information about the department. It's very well put together. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent piece. Well done, Scott. And
Randy, I'll make one quick comment to Pat. Your completion rate is very high. And in the past, we've had a comparison to state averages. State average is 47%, your average is 70-something percent. You might, in the next annual report, make that comparison because it certainly presents Marshfield in a positive light.
Yep, that's easily fixed. One of the things we didn't want to do was I wanted to steer away from other agencies in our area because really some of these, it's a collaborative effort, and to kind of just do that. But I like the idea of state averages without naming departments, because I think that's just better in my eyes. So yep, certainly something we could throw in there.
Okay. Otherwise, I think both of them are exceedingly well done. I couldn't feel better about them.
yeah, you can certainly tell a lot of work has gone into it. It's an excellent explanation of both your missions and what you're doing. So really thanks to all your staff. Just really well done. I appreciate everything. All right, we'll go ahead and place that on file. Item 11, I'm going to adjourn the meeting, but I just want to make just one comment. I will be working with Steve Bargan, Jennifer Raku in HR to start a process as far as options for the commission to replace Chief Gramza. So we're going to start on that immediately. I'll have an update for you at the next meeting. So if you have any thoughts at all, just reach out at some point. But I will have a meeting with all of you soon. So everybody have a great week, and thank you for being here and doing what you all do. Make it a great week. Thank you.
Thank you.